another quick update on a Superturbodiesel Vivaro or Trafic 4-wheel drive expedition campervan, or if you have a longer name, you're more than welcome. As you can see, the engine is painted. I stripped it down yesterday. It actually took a long time. It took me the whole day to strip everything down, mask everything, fill out all the holes, all the threads, protect them from the paint, etc, etc. Obviously I snapped, as my usual, the original breather. There is like an insert, like a rubber plasticky insert in the hole. I snapped it, it went inside, so I had to remove the rocker cover off, and I said, well, I'm not just gonna replace it with a standard part, just waiting for it. I had well done aluminium dash 10 fitting. I had one of these. I said, oh, if I could just put it on, and I think it actually looks good and works out pretty good, because that's not gonna break ever again. On this side you can see I actually had to move my engine mount 50mm higher to clear the diff, because you see this is just quickly mock it up. It was in that it was actually in this position here. It was just too low. It won't allow me to articulate my axle enough. You know what I mean? There was a risk I'm hitting my engine mount with a diff, so I had to move it up this way. Now today's job obviously is tidy up this, remove this stuff, reinforce it on the back, and same on this side here, and put this engine actually in the chassis permanently. It will actually stay there. Then I have to work out the mounts for the gearbox, but that's another story. Another thing is, now we knew from the books that this gearbox, which is 300 TD, and this gearbox, which is Jeep Grand Cherokee YJ 2.7 CRD, they should fit. They have the same fitment on the belt housing and on the torque converter. Now that was on the books. I haven't seen anyone doing this before. I said, fuck it, risk it, let's try it. I had a gearbox for good money. It was a good buy, no problems whatsoever. It came out very quickly, a day after delivery, incredible. And it fits just perfectly. Absolutely nothing changes. It fits perfectly on the engine. The sump not, because the sump is a real sump, and to put a real sump on this engine, they know the bolts don't match on the belt housing. But the belt housing pattern on the engine is spot on exactly the same. The torque converter is spot on exactly the same. The only thing changes is the flex plate, which this one has this multiple tips for the speed engine sensor. The 300, which are left at there, is different, has less tips. Another different thing is the breather. You can connect obviously your pipe and bring it up maybe to your snorkel. And this one is just one-way valve, which I suppose if you go river crossing, this may actually get some water inside. So that's good thing. Another thing is this delivery is slightly longer. On this gearbox it's different, it's slightly shorter, and I will probably have to modify it, because I'm using the Merc 300 from that gearbox, the gear selector, and the length of that lever have to match obviously the movement of the lever as well. So we have to modify that one. I can't just swap it around, because I will have to open the pan, and I just don't want to do it. I just don't have enough time. Another big change, is not big really, is this. This is the cable. This is the cable that is connected to your brake pedal, which won't allow the gearbox to change from the parking or neutral to drive until you press the brake pedal. On this box, as you can see, there's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing there. And I believe, if I'm not wrong, if I remember correctly, the Jeep Grand Cherokee YJ has a lockup, electric lockup with a solenoid on the gear selector inside, on his own inside the cab. So there's no cables, which suits me perfect, because I don't want to connect that. Anything else is spot on exactly the same, apart obviously the biggest change, which is this, the tail of the gearbox, and this is the fitment and the input shaft that allows you can see this is completely rounded, and there's a big advantage because that is round. All the Jeep transfer cases fitments are that round and have the same bolt pattern. Now this means you can use nearly all the Jeep transfer cases from 231, 242 with the diff inside, all the good ones, the rubbish one, even the extremely strong ones, Dana 300 or MP205, or Atlas 2 as well, which if you want to use this gearbox for the competition, I highly recommend it with the Dana 300 or any strong Jeep cases because they're extremely strong. And this gearbox turns out is actually stronger internals than the 300 turbo diesel. The 300 TD, they market themselves, they rated, if I'm not wrong, at 330 newtons of torque, which we know we can easily double that. This gearbox, however, the make says they hold up to 480 newtons of torque, which is a lot more. And if you can double that, then we're never gonna reach that torque. I think that's very close strength to AMG gearboxes. So extremely strong. Plus again with the ofgear software and controller, you can increase the oil pressure in them, so they're even stronger. Because when you increase the oil pressure, you put more pressure on the gears clamps and on the clutch pack. So there's less slippage. They're not as comfortable. Obviously, when you change the gears, they're nice and firm, but it holds stronger. So no clutch slip, no overheating. They just hold much better. I think that's it. The job today is to fit this engine in permanently, as I say. And yeah, oh, this is another thing. I had this made. I had this long time ago, years ago, when I had the OM606 in my Jeep Expedition car. Originally there were three hoses because I made this to suit the original oil housing, which you know has 3 fittings, and one of them is to bypass the oil cooler because there's a thermostat inside, obviously to warm the engine faster. I don't bother using that. Sorry, just got a delivery of more paint. And so I'm not going to use that. I want to try and keep it as simple as possible. One of the hoses is going to go straight to the oil cooler. From the oil cooler back to the oil filter housing, which is going to be remotely fitted. I'm going to show you in a minute. And then from that back into the engine. Now this plate, as you can see, is very ugly. It's nothing beautiful, but I made it at the time. It worked. There's no leaks. It works. It don't have to be beautiful. It has to be strong and do the job. The oil filter housing is very simple. I bought one fairly cheap from Torx. They make very quality stuff. It's pretty big. And you got another extra 2 fittings here. This is, I like it. And I think I'm gonna mount it somewhere here or here, somewhere there. Because obviously none of these wires are gonna be here. Plenty of space there. I want to make it very easy to change it. You don't have to remove anything else. The only thing I would like from this is to, oh Jesus, forgive me the mess. I probably have to drill 2 holes because I would like to have an input, 2 inputs, one for the oil pressure and one for the oil temp. I'm going to do it. So I probably have to drill a couple of holes, put the thread inside for the sensors. Because obviously it's good to keep an eye on the engine, on the temperature, on the pressure, a warning. This sump has a sensor on the low oil level, so that's handy. And that's it really. What else? Simple. I'm just waiting for my pump to arrive. It will be here in a couple of weeks time, hopefully, so we can start it. In the time I can do all the rest of the stuff. Guess what arrived? Oh yes, this is the most expensive part of all this build. Well, it's not. That's what I say to my missus, so keep it quiet. I'm happy with the engine color. This is actually not yellow bright as it looks like maybe on the camera, because I have really bright LED lamp and it looks really bright, but this is actually Caterpillar yellow. Maybe slightly light, brighter than Caterpillar yellow, but very, very similar. This is not my idea. I've seen this done, this color on the OM606, I think in Luke's Diesel Pump UK, Luke's Charger. I think he painted the same color or very similar, and it looked mint. It looked very good. This Caterpillar, you know, this is all dirty, old school diesel, so kind of makes sense. Because I like it. Looks clean. Well, until you have some diesel or oil leak, then it will not look as good as it is look now. Yeah, so now cutting off those engine mounts, the old ones, reinforcing the new ones, paint everything, reinforce everything. I'm gonna remove the gearbox old mounts. I have to chop them off, get the engine in, put it all in position. Engine mounts already in place. I'm gonna finish them within a couple of hours, and then do the mounts for the gearbox. Once that is done, we can position the transfer case. I'll show you how that is done, because that's going to be flipped. As I say, you can flip these transfer cases. So if you run, like myself, a diff on the right side as a patrol diff on the front, you can flip those transfer cases from the left to the right. You can flip them all the way around, up to you. I'll show you the way to do it. It's very simple, very easy. There are no problems, no issue with the oil pickup, because you're going to move the oil pump pickup from the bottom to the top, so when you flip it, it's actually on the bottom. It's a very simple procedure. Again, worked for so many years. I've done it so many times with so many transfer cases, and never a single issue, so it's a good go. And that's a good thing, because this engine can actually be used in off-road competition cars, because this is a strong gearbox, automatic gearbox. We know it gives you a hand, especially in a competition in the off-road, and you can attach a really strong transfer cases. Now, Jeep transfer cases, they're not extremely strong. They're good enough, but not strong enough for competition, for serious abuse. But for serious abuse, this attachment, this fitment, will work with any Dana 300, NP205, Atlas 2 transfer cases. They are extremely, extremely strong, and you can change your low gear ratios and all that stuff. So this gives you a plenty of obviously of choices over the gears and ratios and all that stuff. And the beauty is these boxes are extremely strong. It's not what people say they're weak. They're absolutely not weak. They're strong. The only downside is still electronically controlled, but that's not a major issue, because you can have a controller from Ole or whatever it's called. And the beauty is everything is stock fitment. There's no adapter plates, there's no machining parts. So even if you break something, it's just a standard replacement. These boxes are actually not very expensive, they're fairly cheap, and it's very strong. So there's really no need sometimes, if you have enough knowledge of what parts connect to which other, to run something extremely strong, extremely reliable, not expensive, and a standard fitment. And we know that adapter plates and all the stuff, they work great if they've been machined good, if they've been designed good, but sometimes there's a place for error. And again, if something custom made breaks, now you have to go to the same company made a custom part, and obviously you have to pray they're still there, you have to pray they have the item in stock. But there's nothing better than using standard parts. Every time I build something custom, I always try to use standard parts as much as we can. The only fact that the stuff I modify, make sure it will never break. Make it super strong, make it twice as strong as you need. It will never break. And the stuff is obviously under pressure that it may break eventually. Try to use everything standard. So wherever you are in the world, you have a breakdown. It's very easy, it's very simple. Just, order some parts, swap them around, and off you go. I think that's the main goal. Reliability as much as possible, especially on the overland expedition vehicles. When you play in the field, when you go in racing, strangely enough, or fun enough, the car does not have to be as reliable as an expedition vehicle. Because when you're in the race, sure, it has to be reliable as much as possible. If you break something in the race, well, pain in the ass, don't bother, put the car back on the trailer, off you go home. if you break something like this in the middle of nowhere with no phone reception, even if you are the road cover, AA, whatever, they're not gonna rescue you if you're in the middle of the woods, if you're in the middle of nowhere. You have to have a car on the road, on the public road. So, in some places you really own your own. So that's what I'm saying, these expedition cars, they have to be extremely, extremely reliable. If not, there is a risk of going into big and serious troubles for something even stupid. Well, enough talking. Leave this up and do some chopping and welding. I'll see you in a minute.